Hello, and welcome back to The Voice Within. So, last week we have been talking about renting your nervous system, or basically, we have been talking about accepting and being okay with being misunderstood. And today we're going to move into the boundaries. And I was thinking after that last week episode, basically what extra I can offer you, what extra I can give you, what is the questions and points which are rising after listening that podcast episode. Like, okay, I accept to be misunderstood, I accept that the people will judge me, I accept all of these things, but then how do I communicate boundaries? How do I communicate what is okay for me, what is not okay for me? Because being misunderstood is often byproduct of boundaries. And this is basically the place where we struggle the most, boundaries, because we don't want to be misunderstood. So in order for us to be okay with being misunderstood and judged and gossiped about, we basically have to become comfortable with setting the boundaries, because boundaries, they are communicating our preferences. And then from there, people either judge us, misunderstand us, or understand us and accept us. And to be honest, for a long time I was thinking also that boundaries are something harsh and hard, that the people will reject you, not love you if you set boundaries. And in my life, in my younger age, I used to set boundaries when I was at the edge of my capacity, when I couldn't handle it anymore, and then I would just explode around the things which were bothering me and set the boundaries in inappropriate way. So I was quite struggling with the way how can I communicate my boundaries respectfully without harming anybody and without basically betraying myself. And today in this podcast episode, I want to offer you my wisdom and how actually I'm doing it in my life. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's talk about why do we struggle to set boundaries? We often struggle with boundaries because we need to say to another person that they're doing something that maybe is bothering us or maybe is disturbing us, and they need to stop doing that. This is like kind of definition which is sitting in our head when we talk about boundaries. I need to make somebody else to stop doing whatever they're doing it because I don't like it. And we struggle with boundaries because we are mostly trained that saying no is being selfish, that if someone is disappointed with us, we did something wrong, and keeping harmony, keeping everybody happy is basically love. So it's like we over explain our boundaries to earn permission to even have them in the first place. Now, when we think about how do we usually set the boundaries, how do we usually communicate something, it's usually you did something wrong, or you messed up, or you did something to me. And why do we set boundaries in this way? Why do we frame them in a way of saying you did something to me, or you are wrong, or you are disturbing me? First of all, it's because of need for validation. It's like we are saying, if I can get you to admit you are wrong, I can feel seen, I can feel validated. It's not just this is what I prefer, but is my reality matters, the way I feel matters. Need to set the boundaries in this way where we say to another person you did something wrong, it's our need for safety. When somebody is doing something to us which is disturbing us or bothering us repeatedly, saying to another person, this doesn't work for me, kind of feels soft. So we kind of go into blaming another person for what they did because that kind of validates our feelings and it makes us feel more safe. On another side, we tell them because we hope that they will change. We tell them, you are wrong, you did something wrong. I'm hoping that you're gonna change so I don't have to what? So I don't have to communicate my own boundaries. So I don't have to take actions to stop you from doing what you're doing to me. So if you change, if we kind of agree that you change, then I don't have to be the bad one in this story. And then also, we often frame the boundaries in the way you are wrong or you did something to me. It's part of our conditioning from our childhood, from our life, where we learn that love is agreement. Many of us, we are raised in a way to get kind of attention and care only when we proved that other person did something wrong. So the people were taking care for us only when it was really obvious that somebody did something to us. So instead of standing in our power and saying our preferences, we are basically trying to pull the people to agree with harm that was done to us. So only then our boundaries are justified. And I used to think that boundaries were like argument or confrontation because this is how it used to be in most of my life. Like I said, the boundaries were coming on the end, on the edge where I couldn't take it anymore. Now I see that boundaries are basically preference. It's just like a statement. You are not rejecting anybody. I'm just stating and naming what basically works for me. When we frame boundaries in a way of accusing other person for wrongdoing, for doing something, people feel rejected because basically we are saying that they did something wrong, we are attacking their identity, and you hurt me and you did something implies like kind of moral failure. While when we say this doesn't work for me, this is my preference, implies just difference between the people. The biggest shift basically for me was realizing that boundaries are preferences. That boundaries are just statement. I like this, I don't like this. I prefer this, I don't prefer this. It stopped being about other people. It started being about me, about what I need, what I prefer, what I allow, what I don't allow. And instead of fighting other people to change, I started taking responsibility for protecting myself, protecting my own peace and my own boundaries. And honestly, this understanding completely shifted everything in me. It stopped being struggle to set boundaries and to communicating it. And I started basically focusing on more inside of me what works for me, what do I prefer, why I tolerate certain things. So if we take one simple example, let's say you have a friend who always late to meet you and you are always the one who waits for her for a long time. So how the people usually set boundary, they would attack another person. They would say, you late every time, I have to wait for you over here. And what is usually the product of this style of communication is that another person start defending themselves. Yes, I had reason, I lated because of this, I lated because of that. A lot of people are struggling with accountability, they don't want to admit. Then we have that uncomfortable situation where somebody is not respecting our time, leaving us to wait, doesn't even want to admit that they're late, and we cannot make them to change. And if we want to protect ourselves, then basically either we have to escalate or we have to stop seeing that person and maybe we like to spend the time with that person. So this is how it usually works with the boundaries. And this is why we tolerate, let's say in this example, somebody being late instead of setting boundaries, because we are terrified if we set boundaries, we will feel rejected or they will feel hurted and disrespected with our boundaries. Me framing the boundaries like a preferences changed everything. So if we take this example, somebody is late to you and you are waiting, instead of attacking that another person for their behavior, you simply state what works for you. So in this case would be, hey, it doesn't work for me to wait for you XYZ time, and next time if you don't show up on time, I will just leave. So can you notice the difference? There is no attack on another person. There is no moral judgment. There is basically just your own preference. I don't prefer, I don't have capacity to wait for you. So next time I will just leave. So it's up to another person what they're gonna choose. If they value relationship with you, they will show up next time on time. If they don't, then you have to follow through with your own boundaries. And this is where we often feel uncomfortable to take responsibility for our own choices and for basically protecting ourselves. So if you take a look at this example, the sequence is we start with a preference, we start with capacity. Preference and our own capacity is not something we discuss. It's sitting inside of us. It's something which works or doesn't work for us. Then we go into consequences. We're going into the if this continues, then I'm gonna do XYZ. And this can be delivered in such a soft voice with full respect to another person and basically full respect to ourselves. Because when we start respecting our own preferences and our own capacity, we feel really good inside of ourselves. We feel that we can stand up for ourselves, that we can protect ourselves, that we are paying attention on our own signals inside of us. We are not tolerating behavior of other people which is disturbing us just so we could have people around us, just so we could be the good one, the nice one. We actually, with stating our capacity and preferences, we are signaling to ourselves that we matter as well. And on another side, the people who received our boundaries, let's say in our example, our friend, there is nothing to fight about. Capacity and personal preferences, it's very hard to fight. We cannot say to another person, yes, please tolerate more. Yes, please change your preferences for me. So other person either can accept it and respect it, or they can just disappear. And on the end, it's a win-win situation for us. We didn't escalate, we didn't tolerate something which we don't like to tolerate. We protected ourselves, and it's up to other person and their own responsibility for themselves to choose what they prefer and how they prefer to operate. And of course, even with this type of boundaries where we state our preferences and capacity, people tend to judge us and to misunderstand us. And this is where the last week podcast episode is useful, and I highly suggest you to listen to it and start being comfortable with being judged and misunderstood for having your own preferences and capacity. But the thing is, people will most of the time not communicate their judgment or misunderstanding of you. There is no argument where somebody can give you to say you shouldn't feel that way, or you shouldn't prefer that way, or you should have more capacity for me doing something to you which you don't have capacity to tolerate anymore. So even if the people judge and misunderstand us, they cannot really attack us or give us arguments for our own preferences. And when we name the boundaries in this way, we actually start becoming comfortable with being misunderstood. So it's not anymore I am the bad person because I have said something, or I set the boundaries, or I protected myself. It becomes about this is simply who I am. This is my preferences. This is my capacity. And if you don't understand it, if you judge me for it, then I cannot do nothing about it. When we frame our boundaries like a personal preference and our own personal capacity, then we even don't feel guilty anymore. We feel very comfortable because, hey, this is simply who I am. This is how I function. Yeah, fine, you function different way than me, but I cannot change the way I function, and there is no guilt about it. So moving in boundaries, in setting the boundaries from attacking another person and expecting them to change, so we don't have to take responsibility of changing ourselves, of stepping up for ourselves, changing the way we set the boundaries from you are wrong and you are bad to this is my preference, this is my capacity. It truly, truly changed everything for me, how I feel, how I communicate my needs, and how I live my life. Every single person in this world has capacity, has preferences, has limits. And if we don't start acknowledging our own, like a woman, like a mother, well, people get used to it on the fact that we never said nothing about our preferences and capacity, and they get surprised when we have those things. So sooner, better, start respecting your own preferences, your own capacity, and start communicating them in your boundaries. And that's all for today. I hope you found some wisdom in today's short podcast episode. And until the next week, I wish you a beautiful rest of the day. Bye.